Alright, we are back with a new video, and with the Owl House resuming, I decided to do something new. Every Monday, I'm going to put out a review of the latest episode and share my thoughts on it. For those that follow me from my other content, don't worry, I plan to put out my more usual content on Thursdays for the time being. Also, I know I already made an episode ranking some time back, however, I eventually plan to update it once the series ends, so take these videos as a preview for that eventual video. But let's not waste any more time, let's get into it. So here we have the first episode of the second half of the season, Follies at the Coven Day Parade, which in many ways felt like a season 3 premiere, then a continuation of season 2, though I don't think that's a bad thing. It was apparent right away with the episode opening with Luce recording a message to Camilla in order to establish the setting, but it also came through in various callbacks that feel like they were put there to remind the audience of what came before. Obviously, we're reminded of the events of yesterday's lie, with Luce not wanting to open up about her conversation with Camilla. There's a scene with Luce, Willow, Gus, and Amity all hanging out at Hegside. Luce and Amity's relationship is put on full display with Amity blushing, what else is new, and Luce kissing her. The episode also featured Rain pretty prominently, which surprised me as I thought they were going to remain petrified until the Day of Unity, and I'm kind of glad Rain will be more prominent moving forward. Heck, we even get a follow-up to Understanding Willow, where we see Amity and Willow's friendship improve. So all these factors combine to make this essentially feel like a premiere to a new season. The plot was pretty straightforward as well, with Luce and Ida concocting this scheme to disrupt the Coven Day Parade to quote-unquote kidnap Kiki and to give Ida time to talk with Rain again. Kiki gets a bit more character development with her having to choose between her career and her family. I know the ending has Kiki acting as though the whole thing was a trick to get Luce caught. However, it's pretty clear that Kiki was committed to the plan up until Tara said that she was about to get a promotion. Earlier in the episode, we saw Kiki talking to herself about the dilemma and mentioned how she hasn't really been in a high position within the Emperor's Coven, so that was definitely something she was genuinely considering. And then at the end, we see Tara kind of throw Kiki under the bus, saying that there wasn't actually a promotion. And to me, all this feels like setup to an eventual redemption arc for Kiki, so be on the lookout for that. Then on the flip side, there's Ida's and then the Rain stuff. As I mentioned earlier, Rain is very much in a bow, with Tara feeding them some tea that's been giving them amnesia to the events of Ida's Requiem, and all this culminates with Ida confronting them, only for Rain to fend them off. I find it interesting how Rain still remembers Ida from their previous relationship, but has completely forgotten about their more recent encounters. And while Ida tries to get through to them by playing their song, it's ultimately ineffective. Even so, their previous relationship makes Rain give her the opportunity to leave as opposed to arresting her. Again, I have a feeling this will be important later. Next, here's the Amity storyline, which is kicked off by Luce dropping her phone and somehow not realizing it. This causes Amity to suspect that Luce was lying about not finding her mom during her visit to the human realm. Along the way, she visits Willow while she's working out. Wasn't really expecting that. And then Willow agrees to help Amity in exchange for braiding her hair, which, as I mentioned earlier, is a follow-up to their growing friendship. And on the whole, it was a pretty nice moment. This leads right into the parade, where Amity figures out what's going on and proceeds to help Luce and Kiki, quote-unquote, escape. But then once Kiki turns on them, she helps Luce fight her off. And ultimately, Luce tells Amity all about her encounter with Camilla in the previous episode. And it's weird because on one hand, I was expecting the events of yesterday's lie to be addressed in some way in this episode, especially if reviewing this as a season premiere. But on the other hand, a lot of it didn't feel that significant in this episode. At this point, all this information can do is further the storyline of Luce and Amity finding a way to make the portal more stable. However, that wasn't too relevant to this episode. I almost forgot to mention King and Hootie's role in this episode, which was small. However, I still found it pretty funny. I found it particularly amusing how Hootie was using his body to control the Bellows costume, so there's that. Also, there's Tara, who technically appeared in some other episodes, but this is technically her formal introduction. I mean, she's fine, I guess. I wasn't really asking for a new antagonist at this stage, though with Kiki and Hunter being set up for redemption arcs, I understand why they did it. Still, I didn't get too much out of her. Finally, there's the ending, where Bellows addresses the people and further sets up the Day of Unity, particularly how it involved the removal of quote-unquote wild magic. Now, for the longest time, I believed that the Day of Unity would involve an invasion of the human realm, and I still think that's a possibility, as this wild magic can include people like Luce, as well as any portals on Earth similar to the one Luce and V used. But again, it's not too surprising to see this continue to be a major storyline moving forward. So on the whole, I think this episode did its job pretty well at bringing the audience back into the show after a 7-month hiatus and cancellation rumors. And considering we'll be getting new episodes weekly, I'm pretty glad we won't be getting the epic droughts we got from later seasons of Steven Universe. I got what I wanted out of this episode, and I'm excited to see what'll come next. And the random bits like Lou's case in Amity, the King and Hootie stuff, and Willow randomly working out just add to my enjoyment. Even so, I wasn't the biggest fan of the premise. There was a bit too much going on, and I feel like a lot of the merit to this episode, like Kiki's character arc, the Ida Rain stuff, and even the Lumity stuff, is all things that will materialize more in future episodes than what this episode itself could offer. In terms of the ranking, I feel like it'll fit in like the high teens, sort of where Hunting Palisman and I Was a Teenage Abomination are, sort of like the 14 to 17 range. So I could definitely see it changing as time goes on. So like I said, that'll do it for this video. If you like this content, be sure to like and subscribe. I know this was a bit of a shorter video. Like I said, I'll have my more usual content coming out on Thursdays for the coming weeks as I'm doing these reviews and sort of giving my thoughts on the series as it continues. But for now, that is the video. See ya.